We have Callie on the line for the video conference and panelists this morning.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, distinguished guests and nature defenders. Good morning. Happy Earth Day. It is such an honor to be with you today and discuss the single most powerful concept that's given me hope for the future of society's relationship with nature, the rights of nature. Thank you to Minister Ahrens for this visionary proposal to protect nature in Aruba. As Natalia was speaking to earlier, this emerging conservation framework is different from traditional environmental law. Existing frameworks are clearly not working to protect nature adequately from continued devastating declines. Most of our current environmental laws simply put a report, a timeline, or a price in the way of continued long-term destruction of nature. It's mind-blowing to me that in many countries, most countries, corporations have legal personhood rights, but nature largely has none. How can we give rights to corporations over the natural ecosystems that sustain us and make this blue planet habitable? We need desperately a system change. It's time for this paradigm shift to give nature equal standing within our societies. Recognizing the rights of nature is so important because it directly changes the way in which society interacts with nature. It addresses how we combat climate change, how we govern and protect the ocean, how we approach endangered species conservation, talk about things like sustainability, plan coastal development projects, and invest our funds. It can be one of the most effective ways to hold corporations, governments, and people legally accountable to and financially responsible for their impact on nature. I am proof that you don't need to be an environmental lawyer or a politician to advance the rights of nature. In 2019 to 2020, I was identifying new to science sea turtle nesting and foraging sites in the Pearl Islands archipelago located in the Gulf of Panama and trying to identify the local threats that are facing their survival there. And earlier that same year, I had to legally defend my own rights through the United States legal system. And in processing and moving on in a positive way from this negative experience, I wanted to see how I might be able to use the same type of legal problem-solving structure to protect nature and defend nature's rights in my work. But I found at that time that nature, in fact, largely has no rights, so her rights could not be defended in the way that I had defended my own. I was relieved, of course, to hear that at least in 2 countries, in Ecuador and Bolivia, actions had been taken on a national level to protect and advocate for the rights of nature. And I purchased this book, The Rights of Nature, A Legal Revolution That Could Save the World, to read in my tent on the beach at night while I was studying the sea turtles. And apart from documenting the presence and the habitat use of these incredible marine species, we were also documenting the threats that are affecting their survival, such as the illegal human consumption of turtle meat and turtle eggs, as well as the use of turtle parts in medicinal remedies and the illegal wildlife trade of hawksbill turtle shell for the creation of spurs for cockfighting. I also documented the widespread drowning of critically endangered turtles in illegal gill nets. After seeing the many threats that endangered species are facing in Panama, I decided to pursue proposing a new rights of nature law in the country. Despite not being an environmental lawyer or a politician, it seemed like I really had nothing to lose in trying. So in February of 2020, right before the pandemic, I decided to use my data sets and the compelling multimedia that I had gathered from the field to make the case to Panama's First Lady, Yasmin Cortizo, and Panamanian Parliament member Juan Diego Vazquez, that recognizing the rights of nature is the most tangible and impactful way that we can cause a cascading system effect throughout society to find harmony with nature. They agreed, thankfully, and we spent the next 2 years during the pandemic drafting, debating, and revising the law. The law was presented to the Legislative Assembly in Panama on September 23rd in 2020, and it was officially accepted by the Republic of Panama as an official proposal in October of the same year. And this law requires that the state and all persons, whether natural or legal, such as corporations, need to respect and protect nature's rights. In 2021, the law entered its debating stage with 3 different debate phases, including both public and private meetings. And before entering this debating phase, we had an opportunity to make revisions to the law. And this is when I connected with Michelle Bender, Constanza Prieto-Fijlis, and Rachel Bustamante from the Earth Law Center, who are world experts in the rights of nature, to further develop the articles and add relevant concepts from other successful rights of nature legislation, like in Ecuador, to make the law as strong and as enforceable as possible. And I'm extremely excited to announce that the president signed this new law 1 year and 2 months ago on February 24th, 2022. And the law went into effect 1 year later, just 2 months ago. So now nature in Panama has a long list of rights, including the right to exist, persist, regenerate her vital cycles, the right to be restored, and the right to legal representation in court. So today, any member of Panama's society can bring violators of these rights to court on nature's behalf, the same way a child can be represented by someone else within the court systems today. This law is the first countrywide general all-nature legal action taken internationally since Bolivia added rights of nature into their legal system in 2010. And additionally, this law was the third countrywide general rights of nature action taken. There are several ecocentric principles identified in this new law that help with its implementation. For example, the prevention principle states that preventative measures in the light of uncertainty should be employed, rather than inaction and using uncertainty as an excuse to do nothing. And also in dubio pro natura, or when in doubt, side with nature. The law also establishes that the ancestral knowledge of indigenous peoples must be an integral part of interpreting and applying the rights of nature. Now that this general law has passed, we aren't stopping there. To make sure that the rights of nature are enforceable throughout all levels of society, it's important to incorporate these concepts into secondary legislation. So our next rights of nature advancement has been to include the rights of sea turtles in Panama Law 371, which was just passed last month. To our knowledge, this law represents the first time that a nationwide law was passed that recognizes the specific rights of a marine species group. Article 29 of the law says, the state will guarantee that natural and legal persons protect the rights of sea turtles and their habitats, such as the right to live and have free passage in a healthy environment, free of contamination and other anthropocentric impacts that cause physical and health damage, such as climate change, pollution, bycatch, coastal development, and unregulated tourism, among others. Additionally, we have included ocean rights in a new marine protected area proposal that could be signed by the Minister of the Environment any day now. We have been working to identify what the rights of the coral reef ecosystems and their inhabitants should be, and how we can work together with local communities and governments to uphold these rights. One of the key rights of nature that we are looking to uphold through the creation and management of this new National Wildlife Refuge is the right of the coral reef ecosystems to be restored and to regenerate their vital cycles and ecosystem services. We're hoping to proactively uphold these rights through the development of a coral reef restoration program led by Panamanian scientists and local community members. And lastly, we're working on the inclusion of the rights of nature as a guiding framework in the management of a multilateral agreement between Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, and Ecuador that's called CMAR, or the Marine Corridor of the Eastern Tropical Pacific. CMAR currently includes 5 marine protected areas and was created in an effort to protect the migratory routes or oceanographic highways of endangered marine species movements throughout the East Pacific. So what we've been doing is using satellite tagging, or the deployment of GPSs on the backs of sea turtles, to understand their localized habitat use within the proposed National Wildlife Refuge in Panama, but also in connection to the rest of CMAR. And just this is data hot off the press. Results from the past week have shown the beginning of migration behavior from the Pearl Islands archipelago towards 3 of the 5 MPAs that are part of CMAR. So Coiba Island in Panama, the Galapagos Islands in Ecuador, and Gorgona Island in Colombia. And these data will hopefully be helpful in supporting the need to extend the rights of nature that are offered to these species in both Panama and Ecuador to CMAR as a whole, and to maybe even support the expansion of CMAR to include the Pearl Islands. These are some of the collaborators and donors that have supported this work, and I just want to close by saying that now is a time not to be discouraged by the current state of the ecological crises around the world, but to generate transformative and inspiring proposals like what Aruba is doing right now. So I deeply admire Aruba and Minister Arens for this initiative, and I just want to offer my support. And it would be an honor to support the country and their rights of nature journey in whatever capacity. Thank you so much for having me, and happy Earth Day.